And this is an airplane that weighs about 34,000 pounds with about 38,000 pounds of thrust on a cold morning. It really moved. Nothing today, even the F-15, will accelerate like that 101 could in a straight line. That was that terrific needs of the service, and because I was a young lieutenant and had graduated from Air Force Survival School, and they were in a hurry, they said, okay, you're going to be a forward air controller. Sent us to Hurlburt for 2 weeks. Then I got about a week home with kids in Montana. I left Pat and Barbie at the time with my parents in Missoula. Reported to San Francisco and got on a 707 and ended up in Saigon. Now, being a Montana boy, it's very nice weather year-round. Well, you get into Saigon, I remember the door opening, stepping off that airplane and being hit in the face with the heat and humidity. Nobody knew we were coming. We walked off the airplane to the housing authority at the time and he said, here, go find yourself a place to live, to sleep. There wasn't anything on the base available. That was Tonsonhoot. And report in tomorrow morning wherever we were supposed to. So 4 or 5 of us get together and we get in one of these little rickshaws and go downtown and find us a hotel to sleep in for the night. There must have been 8 or 10 of us in a room and 3 of us to a bed, and hot and sweaty and miserable. And I said, oh boy, this is not going to be fun. And that's the night they bombed downtown Saigon. That was my welcome to Vietnam. So we went down into Trang, which is on the east coast of South Vietnam at the time, which was also a tourist town. It's a gorgeous place, nice long sandy white beaches. As we built up the forces, and one of the things that occurred there was I was one of the 4 forward air controllers that helped build Cam Ranh Bay. I remember Cam Ranh Bay when I first arrived there was nothing but a long peninsula with nothing on it but some fishing towns. So I watched the 101st land in Cam Ranh Bay, and then on Christmas, December 1966, needs of the service said, okay, you're going to go to Da Nang, and oh, by the way, all you have to live in is a tent. So on Christmas, I'm laying in bed as the rain's falling through the holes in the roof of the tent, thinking, what am I doing here?
Well, I came back to live with my mother-in-law in Missoula while he was in Vietnam. It was very, very scary. It was not a popular war, and so there were a lot of people that really didn't care that your husband was there, and the news was always, you know, anti-war. I was going to school at the time, so therefore it was very difficult, and I mean, I prayed every night that he would be, you know, kept from harm, and the letters, read the letters over and over and over again.
He got an assignment to back to F-102s to the Netherlands. So we got to the Netherlands, and that's when the Dutch career began, and Soesterberg was the name of the base. It's also the Queen's runway. Very nice schedule in that the Queen says you will not fly on Saturday and Sundays, and you will not fly past 11 o'clock at night. So it was a very nice time that way, but again, your career was alert and off, not quite as bad as before. We lived in a town called Hoevelaken, and Hoevelaken was just a little village, and it was a very traditional Dutch village. Great place to live. We were fortunate to rent a little house. It wasn't very big, it was 3-bedroom, 1 bath. It was quite an experience, and of course, much like the Seattle area, everything grows in the Netherlands. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to grow things. And we had a nice yard, and of course I had my single-car garage that I built my race car in, but my wife would plant the tulips, and it was a great experience in that house. We finally got settled in Holland, and the next spring, another couple and Pat and I went to Francorchamps down in Belgium, and we went down there to watch the Belgium Grand Prix, the Formula One race, because I'd never been to a Formula One race. Well, when we got there, just the precursor to the main Formula One race was a class called Formula V's. One of those moments sitting on that hill, watching that Formula One race, I said, got to do that. Have to do that. So I started looking around and decided I was going to build my own race car, which I bought a kit, which was a frame and a body, and it was a very big learning experience. And I met a guy by the name of Jaap Luijendijk. So he and I got to be great friends. Now Jaap is a wonderful gentleman. He's passed away now, but he'd lived in South Africa and raced cars in South Africa. Sold me my first engine and helped me build it, helped me assemble the car, and then he went to the race, out to the practice with me that spring. The object of all this was to say, when I set out, I said, okay, because all these Formula V races preceded all the Formula One races in Europe. I said, okay, even if I can't do that, I will go and I will get to race on all the racetracks in Europe and have a good time. And so that's what I set out to do, and that's what we did. I guess it was 1969, I guess. I finished number 8 in Formula V's in Europe. So Pat and I were invited to go to Cologne for the party, which was a great experience. Met a lot of people, some really good drivers. So that's my introduction to car racing. And I had a good time in Europe while we did it, and traveled and met a lot of people and had a wonderful time. We'd plan our winter family vacations around skiing. We'd go down to either southern Germany or in Austria or into France. Some of the most memorable things I can remember was skiing in Le Plonge, France. We'd rented a house for the week. Of course, it's just a little cottage-type farmhouse, or not even farmhouse, just a condo almost, small condo. And it was heated and you had water, and for breakfast, if you wanted eggs, you'd have to either walk, and the snow was pretty deep, so I would take and ski down to the grocery store, buy the eggs and the milk and the bread, fresh bread. Of course, in France, it's only fresh bread. And then I'd wrap them around my wrist and go up the lift, ski down to the house. And literally, you could ski right to the front door. And so we'd do that. It was a great time. Spent 4 years in the Netherlands. We converted the squadron from F102s to the first F4E squadron. Spent about 6 months doing that. In the conversion process, the Air Force went through a time period there where the war in Southeast Asia was, to quote somebody, winding down. So the Air Force had a surplus of fighter pilots. So when my assignment came down from the Netherlands, I was assigned to B-52s. Now, to a fighter pilot, that was a crushing, devastating blow. I was brokenhearted. It was the experience that said the needs of the service comes before your needs, young hero. So I said, okay. So I had attempted everything I could. I tried to get out of the Air Force, and of course I couldn't. They wouldn't let me resign. I tried to send a letter to the Israelis saying, hey, I'll come and fly for you. So we moved from Holland in July of 1970. I was brokenhearted on my way to Castle Air Force Base in California to fly to B-52 training. And I was just, my wife will tell you, I was hard to live with. My whole world had crumbled. My ego was smashed. It was the end of the world to me.